morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Members of the media, good morning. I am Gary Griffith, the political leader of the National Transformation Alliance, and I'm here today for a media conference along with Attorney at Law Larry Lala. We will be dealing with three specific issues as it pertains to the Firearm Audit Report, the abuse of the Interception of Communication Act for possible personal or political benefit, and finally, the confirmation that criminal activity did take place in the rescinding of the merit list for Commissioner of Police. Now, the reason for this media conference is that all three matters are of national importance, as every one of these three matters can affect every single citizen in this country. It can affect their rights, it can affect their privacy, their confidentiality, and being targeted not because of doing anything wrong, but because of political directives. These three matters to be discussed will show that our democracy has been totally eroded. The first signs of dictatorship in a country is when a government attempts to control a police service. The state resources that they have should really be used to protect you and not target you because you have different political views to the same government. Trinidad and Tobago, today it is me, tomorrow it could be you. The first matter involves blatant signals of a government crossing the line in relation to investigating matters that should solely be allocated to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Time and time again, we have seen and heard this present Prime Minister using the line Chairman of the National Security Council. He has used this word even more than stating that he is the Prime Minister. And he gives the perception that the chair of the National Security Council gives him some degree of operational authority. It does not. The National Security Council has no part in our constitution and is nothing more than a subcommittee formed by cabinet with no operational authority. All they are there to do is to assist in policy. But this cabinet, in the last 7 years, they continue to overstep their bounds. I have no intention to go into the Nelson matter today, but we have seen it with Minister Stuart Young saying that it was their duty to forward information to the police, whilst totally sidelining all else that was done incorrectly by pushing themselves into matters beyond their role and function. And now we have the Attorney General trying to pretend that they can reignite this disaster by saying that the matter is not over, hence basically overriding and trivializing the decisions made by the DPP. This government has a game plan that if you say the same lie over and over, you hope that people will believe you. This first matter is no different, as it involves the government virtually bullying the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to launch investigation after investigation into legal firearms when there is not one report from a complainant, no victim, no suspect, no document, no data, no evidence. However, we have seen the Acting Commissioner of Police directing over 70 police officers full-time to investigate legal firearms, dealer after dealer, FUL holder after FUL holder, farmer after farmer, hunter after hunter, persons involved in sporting, and all of this to deal with legal firearms to protect persons because the state is unable to protect them. But he has not appointed one police officer full-time to deal with illegal firearms, which is the cause for 100% of all murders committed by firearm. The interference of the government, it has commenced with the personal selection of a two-man committee to investigate firearms without the approval of the Commissioner of Police then. I, as the Commissioner of Police, however, decided to approve it to expose their nonsense. The Prime Minister then foolishly claimed that this report signed by one man should be the reason to hold the merit list, when this report never even reached the Police Service Commission. They then tried again with the Stanley John report, and again that flopped. And now we have come to the third aspect, where they handpicked an audit committee, and for the third time they went overboard, abusing their authority in their thirst for political gain to destroy others and bypassing natural justice. I will now hand over to Attorney at Law Larry Lala to elaborate on this matter.
Morning, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Last Thursday, attorneys at law for Mr. Griffith, Mr. Avery Sinanan, Senior Counsel, and myself filed an application for judicial review against the following persons in relation to the recent firearms audit report. The National Security Council, comprising the Honorable Keith Rowley, the Honorable Faris Al-Rawi, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines, the Honorable Colm Imbe, the Honorable Stuart Young, the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez. Apart from the National Security Council, we have also taken action against the Honorable Keith Rowley in his capacity as Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honorable Fitzgerald Hines in his capacity as Minister of National Security, Acting Commissioner of Police Wellington Virgil, retired Acting Commissioner of Police Wellington Virgil, retired Acting Commissioner of Police Raymond Craig, retired Police Inspector Leonard Charles. And I want to put the approach to court in context and give you some background information. As you would recall, prior to the end of Mr. Griffith's time as Commissioner of Police in August of 2021, he reapplied for the post and office of Commissioner of Police and was interviewed and placed on the August 2021 merit list for appointment to the office by the Police Service Commission. However, though the August 2021 merit list was deposited with the President of the Republic by the then Chairman of the Police Service Commission, in accordance with Section 123 of the Constitution, the said merit list was allowed to be withdrawn by and from Her Excellency on August 11, 2021. Following the withdrawal of the August 2021 merit list, information came to the public domain that the list was withdrawn after the Chairman of the Police Service Commission met at President's house, or was met at President's house, by a certain high-level government official. The identity of that high-level government official and the nature of the meeting that the person had with the Chairman of the Police Service Commission at President's house remained a mystery to the public for several months. On or about November 29, 2021, following Mr. Griffith's departure from the Office of Commissioner of Police, Fitzgerald Hines, the Minister of National Security, at a press conference, announced, among other things, that A, there was to be a full and comprehensive audit into the firearms unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. B, a 6-member team comprising 3 retired police officers and 3 serving officers of Trinidad and Tobago Police Service had been given 3 months in which to complete the audit and present their findings to the National Security Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. C, the audit team was to comprise retired Acting Commissioner of Police Virgil and Craig, retired Inspector Leonard Charles, and 3 other officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. At the time the above announcement was made, and apart from the information given at the press conference, the public was given no information as to the legal basis and authority in law for the appointment of the audit committee, the basis upon which the members of the committee were selected, and the terms of reference of the audit committee. Similar to the fact that there is no law that gives an Attorney General the power to have plea discussions and negotiations with a witness in a criminal matter and to enter an indemnity agreement with such witness. Similar to that, there is no law of the land that gives the National Security Council a mere subcommittee of Parliament, nor the Prime Minister, nor the Minister of National Security authority or power to appoint persons to investigate the operations of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Apart from the lack of power in law for the appointment of the audit committee, at no time during the work of the committee and the preparation of its report did any of the persons on the committee contact Mr. Griffith to explain the terms of their terms of reference, to ask him any questions in relation to the performance of his functions under the Firearms Act during his term as Commissioner of Police, to present him with any of their findings, observations, and concerns, to present him with a draft of their report for comment or other feedback, and in particular, to draw attention to any adverse findings that they may have made against him and to afford him an opportunity to respond. That failing of the audit committee, assuming for argument's sake that it was properly appointed, breached Mr. Griffith's right to fairness and what in law is known as natural justice. There was no public mention or reference of the work of the audit committee between November 2021 to July 2022. In or about mid-March 2022, the Prime Minister revealed to the national community that he was the high-level government official who met with the chairman of the Police Service Commission at President's House and caused her to withdraw the August 2021 merit list, after he had supplied her with certain information about Mr. Griffith, who then held the office of Commissioner of Police. Ladies and gentlemen, the particulars of that information that the Prime Minister supplied to the chairman of the Police Service Commission was never revealed to Mr. Griffith, and he has never been allowed an opportunity to respond to same. This was another breach of the right to fairness and natural justice in relation to Mr. Griffith. On or about Saturday, April 30th, 2022, Mr. Griffith announced the launch of the National Transformation Alliance, a political party in which he is intricately involved and of which he is political leader. On or about the 2nd of July 2022, Mr. Griffith then announced at a media conference that he had applied for the post of Commissioner of Police. Shortly thereafter, at a press conference on or about July 17, 2022, the Prime Minister announced amongst other things, that A, he had just received the report from the investigations into the Firearms Department. B, the report makes for very, quote-unquote, very disturbing reading. C, even before he finished reading the report, he intended to send it to the Police Service Commission to quote, unquote, and to quote, let the chips fall where they may, end of quote. D, that is executive summary of the report will be laid in Parliament as soon as Parliament reopens this past September. And he also said that the report will be sent to the Acting Commissioner of Police. At a meeting of the People's National Movement on Tuesday, 23rd August, the Prime Minister indicated to the national community that his decision to accept Mr. Griffith as the Commissioner of Police was, quote, the biggest mistake he has made in his life, end of quote. And again, made reference to the fact that the report makes, quote, very, very troubling reading, end of quote. By letter of August 29, 2022, we wrote to the Police Service Commission seeking their undertaking that that audit report would not be used in processing Mr. Griffith's application for the post of Commissioner of Police, without first affording Mr. Griffith the opportunity to address and respond to any adverse finding or implication in the report in keeping with Mr. Griffith's right to natural justice and to fairness. By letter dated August 30th, 2022, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, retired Madam Justice Judith Jones, confirmed that the Commission intended to observe the principles of natural justice in relation to Mr. Griffith's application. Ladies and gentlemen, by pre-action protocol letter dated August 29, 2022, to the Prime Minister, I requested that the Prime Minister give an undertaking that he would refrain from laying any part of the audit report before the Parliament upon the resumption of Parliament on September 12th. By letter dated September 6th from Ms. Tenneil Ramkisoon for the Attorney General, acting for and on behalf of the Prime Minister. They agreed not to lay the audit report in Parliament. In that letter, Ms. Ramkisoon went on to say that the audit report or a summary thereof will still be laid in Parliament, but it was not proposed to lay it unless persons adversely affected by findings in the report had had an opportunity to comment and make representations on matters giving rise to negative findings against them in the report. By letter September 8, 2022, I wrote to the Attorney General through Ms. Ramkisoon and drew reference to the state's duty of disclosure as laid down by law, having regard to the important constitutional and public law issues raised in relation to Mr. Griffith. And I requested disclosure of the following information. 1, the names of the persons who conducted the investigation and prepared the audit report. 2, the address for service of court process on all of the persons who prepared the report. 3, and importantly, the authority in law, constitutional, statutory, or otherwise, under which the persons comprising that audit committee were appointed by the National Security Council to conduct that audit. 4, the basis or criteria used for the selection of the persons to conduct the audit report. 5, the person or body or authority that selected the persons to conduct the audit report. 6, a copy of the appointment letter to those said persons to conduct the audit report. 7, the terms of reference of the persons appointed to conduct the audit. 8, the remuneration paid or agreed to be paid or requested to be paid to the persons who, and by the persons who conducted the audit. 9, the person or body or authority that paid any remuneration to the persons who conducted the audit. 10, the date on which the audit was completed. 11, the persons or body or authority to whom a copy or copies of the subject audit was delivered or distributed. And 12, a copy of the completed audit report, redacted if necessary in order to protect any sensitive information. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be surprised to know, or perhaps you may not be surprised to know, that in relation to that letter that we sent to the Attorney General asking for very basic fundamental information, which Mr. Griffith has a right to know, by letter of September 16, 2022, the Attorney General, acting through Ms. Ramkisoon, for and on behalf of the Prime Minister, refused Mr. Griffith's request for disclosure of that information. By that refusal, the Prime Minister and the Attorney General have refused to explain to Mr. Griffith something as fundamental and straightforward as the authority in law for the appointment of the audit committee. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a serious state of affairs that affects Mr. Griffith and indeed all citizens. When government takes action affecting a person, and when they are called to explain the basis in law for doing so, and they refuse to explain, that is something that must concern all of us. We believe that the Prime Minister and the present Attorney General know that the government have again acted improperly in relation to Mr. Griffith. As a result, we have sought the following reliefs in the judicial review application that we filed last Thursday before the High Court. 1, an order compelling the defendants, all the persons that I listed before, to disclose the names and addresses of all members of the audit committee appointed by the government. 2, a declaration that the decision to appoint the audit committee was unlawful and was done without any lawful authority to do so. 3, a declaration that the audit report was prepared and completed in breach of Mr. Griffith's right to natural justice. 4, a declaration that the audit report is null, void, and of no effect. 5, a declaration that the contents of the audit report, insofar as they pertain to Mr. Griffith, in the discharge of his functions of Commissioner of Police during the period 2018 to 2021, are null, void, and of no effect. 6, a declaration that the Prime Minister acted in bad faith when shortly after Mr. Griffith's announcement of the launch of the National Transformation Alliance, and that he had reapplied for the post of Commissioner of Police, the Prime Minister agitated the public by stating that he had, quote, just received the report, and that, quote, the report makes for very disturbing reading, and that the decision to accept Mr. Griffith as Commissioner of Police was, quote, the biggest mistake he had made in his life, and that an executive summary of the report would be laid in Parliament, when he knew or ought to have known at all material times that neither himself nor the National Security Council had any power or authority in law to appoint the Audit Committee to conduct investigations into the police service, and the said report had been compiled, prepared, and accepted as final in breach of Mr. Griffith's right to natural justice and to fairness. And lastly, we have sought an injunction restraining the Prime Minister from laying any part of the said audit report before the Parliament or otherwise publishing any portion of the contents of the said report. We have received notification that the matter, the judicial review application, has been assigned to Mr. Justice Rampasad, and we are awaiting the judge to indicate when he will hear us. Thank you, and I hand you back over to Mr. Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Lala. Trinidad and Tobago, this is nothing more than email gate reloaded. It has always been the style of this government that if you say the same lie over and over and you hide in Parliament, you hope that people will believe it. No government should have the right to handpick people, call them a committee, pay them handsomely using taxpayers' money, upon which they can easily come up with any padded report littered with comments of it is alleged, it is rumored, and we have heard. This abuse of authority shows a government that is blatantly witch hunting. If there's any audit in any organization, common sense would dictate that the first thing you do is to speak to the CEO, the chief financial officer, or the person who is in charge of this organization. These 6 individuals, selectively handpicked by certain individuals in the political arena, did not have the common sense to understand this. So by them not speaking to the person who was in charge of the police service at that time, that being myself, but you decided to do a comprehensive an audit without speaking to the person in charge, it is either you are incompetent or you had a blatant agenda and you forgot to do what was required to at least make it look as if you were trying to be impartial. Whichever it is totally impractical that an Attorney General can have the audacity to state that all it takes now is for us to press rewind, speak to Gary Griffith now, and then we can move forward with the report. It is obvious that what the intention was. And as I said, by these individuals not speaking to me in the first place, it shows they are all either totally incompetent or they already had an agenda knowing exactly what they will put in the report. If it is that the Attorney General is stating that all it takes is to simply go back and to speak to persons, well then all it means now is that we can reopen the landate matter. There was a reason why the Prime Minister wanted to quote the lies and misinformation of that audit in Parliament, because he was fearful that if he said it in public, there would be a cost. Parliament is the one place where you can hide and you can say lies and not be concerned that you would pay the price. Trinidad and Tobago, today it is me, tomorrow it could be you. Going on to the second matter of national concern, again, that can affect any citizen of this country, it has to do with the abuse of authority by any of the 3 individuals who have the authority to intercept your communication devices via the Interception of Communications Act, IOCA. We recall when Mr. Jacob, the Acting Commissioner of Police, when asked by the media, is Gary Griffith being investigated, he said no. In 2009, 53 persons' phones were being intercepted by the PNM administration because we did not have IOCA. IOCA was then formed to state that 3 persons will have the authority to intercept your phones: the Chief of Defense Staff, the Director of the SSA, and the Commissioner of Police. Unfortunately, when that was drafted, it was not taken into consideration that these 3 persons are selectively handpicked by a politician. And this is not in any way to cast anything on the 3 persons who presently hold this office, but it means easily that a prime minister, for example, if there's a merit list and 16 persons are shortlisted, the 16th person who the prime minister believes will sing for his supper and be a political puppet, he can bypass those 15 persons, select that 16th person, and tell him, anytime I tell you to intercept the phones of any of my political opponents, you would do so. And the same can be perceived for the Director of the SSA and the Chief of Defense Staff, who are all political appointees. These 3 individuals, by the way, can intercept your phones without a warrant. We now have it confirmed that Acting Commissioner of Police Jacob had sent the relevant documentation to the relevant authorities in the SSA to intercept all of my phones. So Mr. Jacob has stated to the media that I was not being investigated, yet it is confirmed that all my mobile phones are being intercepted because of the request by Mr. Jacob, who has stated that it was based on intelligence. Trinidad and Tobago, you cannot use the word intelligence to try to justify breaching the confidentiality of any citizen, the privacy of any citizen. If that is the case, it means that each and every citizen in this country, your phone can easily be intercepted with no probable cause, no just cause, no justification, no witnesses, no documents, no data, simply by any of these 3 individuals using the word intelligence. I intend to take this further. Through, again, my attorneys, we have now submitted a pre-action protocol letter to Mr. Jacob, and I am calling him out to show to the country what is your intelligence, because in the document it will show that at no time am I being investigated, at no time is there any police report of any criminal activity by myself, so what is his justification? Furthermore, it is totally impractical, improper, and totally unprofessional for Mr. Jacob to have the audacity for he himself to decide to intercept my phones when there's a blatant conflict of interest in that he, Mr. Jacob, is also vying for the position as Commissioner of Police, along with myself. If at any time there was any perception that my phone should be intercepted, he should have recused himself and asked any of the other 2 individuals, that being the Director of the SSA or the Chief of Defense Staff, provide them with this intelligence to then state, you could decide for yourself if Gary Griffith's phone should be intercepted. I am not just a past Commissioner of Police. I've also applied for the position as Commissioner of Police. I am also the political leader of a party. By the actions by Mr. Jacob, it means that any person who is a political opponent of this government, all of their phones can easily be intercepted by the Acting Commissioner of Police, who has been handpicked and selected by the government to act as Commissioner of Police, by simply stating, intelligence has revealed that this person is involved in criminal activity. This, Trinidad and Tobago, again shows creeping dictatorship. When a government tries to control the police service, it is the first sign of dictatorship. So I intend to call out Mr. Jacob, show the country your intelligence. You cannot use the word intelligence to invade the privacy of citizens of this country. You cannot use the word intelligence to try to breach the confidential rights of citizens of this country. Today it is me, tomorrow it could be you. I will now go into the 3rd aspect. We have saved the best for last. Somebody has to go to jail. For over a year, the country has rallied through what can be seen as the biggest conspiracy ever experienced in this country, with the office of the President, the office of the Prime Minister, and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission all being involved in highly questionable activity. And that has to do over the rescinding of the merit list for Commissioner of Police. Was there criminal activity that caused the merit list to be rescinded? We now have it confirmed. The answer is yes. The nation demanded for a year that this matter be investigated. And yet again, the Acting Commissioner of Police, Jacob, who was selectively handpicked by the government, refused to investigate this matter. In a very foolish manner, he stated that he needs someone to send a report before he can investigate this matter. But note, with the FUL matter, with over 70 police officers fully assigned to be raiding the dealers, FUL holders, farmers, hunters, no one submitted a report. No one reported a crime. But you saw it fit to investigate that. But here we had a matter of national concern, and up to this day, you have not lifted a finger. And you, Mr. Jacob, have to explain why. It again has showed blatant bias or incompetence on the part of Mr. Jacob by refusing to investigate this matter. This was a matter of national importance. As I said, all it took was for him to do what I did. It took me 1 year to get the information required. If Mr. Jacob acted in a professional manner as the Commissioner of Police, he would have been able to acquire this in 1 week. And it would have shown clearly that a crime did take place. Two main things have come about here to verify that the laws were broken and somebody must go to jail. The Police Service Commission never rescinded the merit list. The Police Service Commission never suspended me as Commissioner of Police. The only body that could have rescinded that merit list was the Police Service Commission. The only body that can suspend a Commissioner of Police is the Police Service Commission. This was not done. And I will be revealing to the media the reason why we can now confirm that laws have been broken. I have the document here from the Police Service Department verifying what I requested through the Freedom of Information Act, requested through Attorney Larry Lala to the Police Service Commission. We asked for the minutes in July, August, and September 2021 to verify what transpired. Because if it is that if the merit list was to be rescinded, it must have been put in the minutes by the Police Service Commission. If the Commissioner of Police was to be suspended, it must be put in the minutes by the Police Service Commission. What was very interesting is the Service Commission's department, in their response to the attorneys, they stated that it is their view under the Act, the minutes of meetings of the Commission, it really should not be given because of confidentiality. However, based on the circumstances surrounding such a withdrawal, it is in the public interest to give access to the relevant portions of the confirmed minutes for the periods requested. This shows that even the Service Commission Department were very concerned by what transpired and they wanted the country to know. I am acting as that conduit to ensure that the country knows once and for all that somebody is going to jail. The minutes of the Police Service Commission of the 8th meeting on Thursday, the 26th of August, it will state as follows. The committee the chairman informed that a secret report, note a secret report, has been received that touches on concerns. This secret report, by the way, was based on Mr. Barrington submitting a report. And up to now, the Police Service Commission never received this so-called secret report. It also stated that she suggested 3 names of persons to meet the criteria to carry out an investigation, inclusive of Mr. Stanley John. So the chairman herself submitted this to the Police Service Commission. 2 members of the Police Service Commission had not seen this so-called document, and that a decision for an investigator could not be made at this time. Another member of the Police Service Commission stated that to launch such an investigation without formal documentation in his possession, and they do not know if under the Constitution they had power to do so. In the minutes now, on Friday, 17th of September 2021, it stated that Cabinet is urging the Commission, listen to this, Cabinet, which is politicians who have no authority to be involved in trying to pressure or interfere with an independent body. Cabinet, headed by the chair of the National Security Council, as he loves to call himself, Keith Rowley, is urging the Commission to send Mr. Gary Griffith on leave based on legal advice from Ralston Nelson SC and pending the investigation conducted by an independent investigator. The Police Service Commission stated, however, there was not any disciplinary process and the Commission should not be acting on that request. What we have seen here is Cabinet blatantly trying to pressure, harass, or bully an independent body to remove a sitting Commissioner of Police. Another commissioner then stated that the minister it did not outline any complaints to initiate disciplinary proceedings against Mr. Griffith. And he gets the impression that the Cabinet and the National Security Council, headed by Keith Rowley, is indeed seeking for disciplinary action to be initiated, and the Commission cannot be dictated to commence such. The Commission stood firm, and this is why Trinidad and Tobago, the Commission, resigned in disgust, because they were bullied, pressured, and harassed by our government and officials in the government trying to pressure them into doing something when they should not have. The chairman informed Justice John he is not bringing any disciplinary charges against Mr. Griffith. Justice John stated that Mr. Griffith is the chairman stated that Mr. Griffith is actively interfering in the investigation. I have the document here from Mr. Stanley John to show that the chairman of the Police Service Commission lied to the Police Service Commission. She tried to mislead the Police Service Commission when it is showed clearly by Stanley John that at no time did I ever interfere with the investigation. So her comments again leads to misbehavior in office, if not sedition, by trying to find an excuse to lie to the Police Service Commission to have me removed. Thankfully, the members of the Police Service Commission understood where she was going, and they said they need to have formal documentation from Mr. John indicating that Mr. Griffith was interfering with the investigation. Mr. John never submitted that because it did not take place, because the chairman of the Police Service Commission at the time tried to mislead the Police Service Commission. It was also stated that a top secret document was sent to the Police Service Commission, and they stated, but this document only had one signature, which meant that that document signed by Mr. Barrington is as relevant as any citizen in the 1.4 million people in this country submitted a document to the Prime Minister. And that is why the Police Service Commission knew that there was no secret report, there was no document, there was no official committee that gave any justification to withdraw the merit list or to remove me as Commissioner of Police. The chairman highlighted the secret letter was dated the 19th of September 2021. However, the attachment was dated 20th of March 2021 with only one signature, where there should have been two signatures, which meant that it was not a bona fide report. So the misleading information by Keith Rowley to justify why a merit list should have been removed and why he should have used the President's house as a post office to meet the then chairman of the Police Service Commission is null and void, because there was no official report, there was no secret report, there was no document by any committee to justify this. This was one man who is, as I said, his document is equivalent to anybody in this room and anybody in this country submitted correspondence to a Prime Minister. Is the Prime Minister stating that anytime anybody sends anything to him, it gives him the right to use President's house as a meeting room, a coffee shop, and then bring in the chair of the Police Service Commission? The chairman then, after speaking to senior counsel, he said that Mr. Griffith is simply to report to work. The commission emphasized its disgust with the chairman of the National Security Council, who was in possession of documents in March 2021 and did not submit it to the commission until September 2021. You are hearing an independent body voicing their disgust in the actions of a Prime Minister, voicing their disgust in the chairman of a National Security Council. How could you have the audacity to state that this report was so damning? It is such a secret report. You had it in your possession since March 2021, but in September, you decided to hand this over to the Police Service Commission. One of the commissioners stated that Mr. Griffith has not been found guilty of anything. It was also another commissioner stated that he is willing to offer his resignation arising of the whole scenario. The commission also stated that they voiced their concerns regarding the investigation of a candidate to enable the recruitment and selection of a commissioner of police. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinidad and Tobago, as I stated, for the merit list to be rescinded, it must have been minuted by the Police Service Commission. Only the Police Service Commission has the authority to rescind the merit list. Not the President, not the Prime Minister, not the Chairman of the National Security Council, not the Chairman of the Police Service Commission. Only the Police Service Commission could rescind the merit list. I will provide you with the minutes, and it will show that at no time was there any discussion by the Police Service Commission and any decision made to withdraw the merit list. Additionally, to suspend a commissioner of police, it must be done by the Police Service Commission. The President, the Prime Minister, the Chair of the National Security Council, the Chairman of the Police Service Commission cannot suspend a Commissioner of Police. There must be discussion by the Police Service Commission, and only the Police Service Commission could suspend a Commissioner of Police. That was not done. So it meant that someone suspended the Commissioner of Police without authority. Someone rescinded the merit list without authority. I do have, however, a document here from the Police Service Commission signed by Bliss Prasad as the chairman, because she has access to the letterhead, and as the chairman she could write. So she had suspended a Commissioner of Police without approval from the Police Service Commission. I would now recommend that the next steps, and it's quite simple, that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service interview the 4 previous Police Service Commission members and ask them for all emails provided between the 3 members who resigned immediately in disgust over the actions by the Prime Minister, and their meetings and conversations held with the then chairman of the Police Service Commission. And then the police must also interview the previous chairman of the Police Service Commission to ascertain on what grounds did you suspend the Commissioner of Police if it was not approved by the Police Service Commission, and why was the merit list rescinded by you if the Police Service Commission did not rescind it. It is for the previous Police Service Commission, she must tell us if she was influenced by someone to do so, if she was bullied, if it was based on interference, harassment, intimidation by anyone, because that also, Trinidad and Tobago, is misbehavior in office. That also is sedition. So you take back a merit list, and again, let us not have the garbage about a Prime Minister, because what he will say, he moonwalks like Michael Jackson. He would say, well, it is my right to hand over documents to an independent body. They will probably use a case law from another island in the Caribbean. That case law is based on if there is bona fide documents from an official body that has a documentation. So in other words, SSA, the police service, it gets to the government. It is the right of the government to forward that to the bona fide independent body. That is not the case here. This is not an official document that was submitted to the Prime Minister. This was one citizen giving him a piece of paper, and he used that as the excuse to justify trying to influence or interfere or harass in any way or involve in Bliss Prasad rescinding the merit list without authorization, without approval. So to say that I will take back the merit list, and I also spoke to the President, you are to suspend Gary Griffith, whatever happened, it is for the Prime Minister now to be interviewed by the police to ascertain what did you tell Bliss Prasad. Because if you wanted to use this format from the President from the Caribbean of a similar case, all you had to do was to dispatch that document straight to the Police Service Commission, not meet the chairman of the Police Service Commission. What did you tell Bliss Prasad, Keith Rowley? What it is that caused her to act in this manner? If she acted on her own, well then she is to pay the price. Let the chips fall where it may. If it is that someone influenced or interfered or bullied her into making that decision, she must come out now. And this, however, is what we'll call plea bargaining. And that is for the DPP to decide, not for an Attorney General or for anyone to decide about plea bargaining. If there is plea bargaining based on an individual breaking the law, it is for that individual to tell the country, to tell the police, sorry, who it is that pressured her into doing the wrong thing. Somebody has to go to jail. And it is now for the police to act. Mr. Jacob has refused. We now have the confirmation that laws were broken. Because to conclude, before I now open questions to the media, as I stated, the only way that a Commissioner of Police could be suspended is if the Police Service Commission had approved it. They did not. The only way that the merit list could be rescinded when the Police Service Commission, all 4 signed on the merit list and sent it to President's house, is if the same Police Service Commission decided to rescind the merit list. They did not. Somebody broke the law, and somebody has to go to jail. I now open questions to the media.
Mr. Griffith, Jensen, I was in news today. I started with the point you ended up on there. This information that you're going to provide to us today, would you be, or have you already provided it to the police service? And if so, when?
Yes, I have provided to the ACIB.
When did you do that?
sometime last week.
And between then and now, what sort of feedback, if any at all, have you received that you are the complainant in this matter?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, I have provided the ACIB with the information that their acting commissioner of police has failed to do. As I said, it took a year for me to acquire this information, thankfully, due to Mr. Larry Lala and his team, through the Freedom of Information Act. And this is all Mr. Jacob could have done a year ago. Because of his incompetence, he stated that this matter could not be investigated because there was no complainant, there was no victim. However, he has over 70 police officers are now been assigned to deal with legal firearms, and there's no complainant, there's no victim, there's no witness, there's no report. So it shows his hypocrisy, it shows his double standard. This is a matter of national concern. So what I have done is I have provided a comprehensive document to the ACIB, showing them emphatically that someone broke the law.
Now, last week, I believe it was in Senate, Mr. Naked would have made some pronouncements against the Prime Minister. Is this in relation to what you submitted to the ACIB?
Mr. Naked, I did hear Senator Naked, and he stated that there was another witness. I am that witness. I was the person that provided the information extracted from the police, the Service Commission Department, showing that at no time did the Police Service Commission withdraw the merit list or that they suspended me. So I was able to extract the information and forward it to the police. So there's nothing right now that can be done. Mr. Jacob has done everything to prevent this from moving forward. This is now open to the public. Laws were broken. Someone broke the law. Crimes took place. Somebody must go to jail.
Now, you also mentioned earlier on of political interference in the matters dealing with the PSC and whatnot. Given that the first hearing of this came through the mouthpiece of a politician, are you not concerned that you are doing the same thing that you are accusing others of?
The reason why it's different, I have it here in black and white. It's here in black and white. This has nothing to do with hearsay or rumor. Black and white. The only person, let me make it again clear, the only person or group that has authority to suspend a commissioner of police or to withdraw the merit list is the Police Service Commission. They did not do so. Whether it is your PNM, UNC, ABC, or XYZ, this documentation verifies that laws were broken. So whether you love the PNM, you hate the UNC, vice versa, I do not care. My point is a law was broken. So whether it is that the UNC will ramage on this, whether it is the PNM will moonwalk like Michael Jackson, it doesn't matter to me. The documents here show that at no time did the Police Service Commission suspend me, yet I was suspended temporarily. It shows that the Police Service Commission never withdrew the merit list, yet it was withdrawn. So somebody operated outside of their role and function. Somebody broke the law. That is all that needs to be dealt with. What the politicians speak about on the platform pertaining to what I have said today is irrelevant to me. Somebody must go to jail.
Given that your suspension was, using your words, illegal, any plans to file, take legal action to recoup some of the monies that you would have obviously lost because of your...
Yes, that is going forward. In fact, it started when it is that I was suspended without due process because Blissy Prasad sent a letter to suspend me. And then again, the 3 other members of the Police Service Commission, when interviewed by the police, they will be asked, did you suspend Gary Griffith? And the 3 of them will most probably will say no. It meant that the Police Service Commission never suspended me. So she suspended me without authorization. And then when my attorneys, led then by Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, we immediately sent to them, on what grounds can you suspend a commissioner of police without due process, without any disciplinary matter, without natural justice? They immediately retracted it, and then that is why the suspension was revoked. So that obviously we are also taking that and dealing with it as well. Because at no time, you can't suspend a commissioner of police because a prime minister has some tobacco over him. That is not a reason to suspend a commissioner of police.
Mr. Lala, on that same issue, what then does this say about the Justice Kangaroos judgment that even the acting appointment of Mr. Griffith was unlawful?
Well, I mean, that is a separate issue. You know, we're dealing with the Constitution and Section 123 of the Constitution, which sets out a certain procedure that has to be applied in relation to the merit list. And that is what we're focusing on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Johnson, just one point. I'm getting a little old, so I forgot that point. Apart from the fact that the acting commissioner of police has decided to intercept my phones, whether it is because I'm a politician or a candidate vying for a position that he wants. What he has also done, he has also intercepted the phone of a citizen because of that person's possible affiliation to me. That is Nicole Griffith. So he has also intercepted her phone. And Trinidad and Tobago, what this means is that at any time now, any one of you, if it is that politicians or police officers, they have some investigation on you, is it that they have a right to now intercept the phones of all your family members, all your friends, all the phones in your business, in your company? This is a serious sign of what is called dictatorship via democracy. And this type of dictatorship must end, because we now have Nicole Griffith. Her phone has also, based on directive by Mr. Jacob, to also be intercepted.
I have a few more questions, but I want Khalid to add some more.
Sure.
Hi, good day, Liana Maharaj from Guardian Media. So my question is, who will prosecute anyone if you believe that this is a conspiracy between the Commissioner and the Prime Minister? If all the bodies who should do something are involved, how do you expect to get justice?
Well, nobody is above the law, inclusive of the Prime Minister and the Commissioner of Police. So the justice, it involves our criminal justice system. There may be flaws. We may have chinks in the armor. But the fact is, nobody is above the law. We would have seen a previous Commissioner of Police, he was arrested already. We have seen a previous Prime Minister arrested already. We have previous Attorney Generals already arrested. So it means, however, that we have the evidence to verify that someone broke the law. Whether it is the Prime Minister or the Acting Commissioner of Police, they were involved or not, that is for the investigation to decide. What we do know is that Mr. Jacob, if he was not involved, he was blatantly incompetent by refusing to investigate this matter and trying to trivialize it by trying to use a red herring to state that someone must report a crime before it can be investigated. So through the ACIB, through bodies in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, they can easily launch this investigation, and the Commissioner of Police must recuse himself from this to ascertain on what was his involvement. It is either he did it based on a directive by the politicians to stay away from it, or he was blatantly incompetent. Because what I was able to acquire all of the evidence to verify that a crime was committed, and he refused to do so when he, in the chair, had the easy authority to get this information within a few days.
Okay, my next question is, you said if you were chosen, you believe you won't be chosen as the next police commissioner, but if that happens, and you would resign as a political leader, what is it?
No, and that's what it is. I think with the Guardian, sometimes I need to draw pictures because you all seem not to understand English. 3 times in a press conference yesterday with Blaze, he asked me the question, and on 3 occasions before the cock crowed, I stated that the question does not exist because at no time would I be accepted as Commissioner of Police because of the hatred, bitterness of an individual. Keith Rowley is going to disregard the fact that under my watch in my last year, it was the highest reduction in all violent crime in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. He will disregard the fact that there were 340 murders in my last year from August 2020 to August 2021, which was the lowest number of murders in the last 17 years. He will ignore the fact that after I left, in that last year under Mr. Jacob, from August 2021 to August 2022, there have been 586 murders, the highest number of murders in any year in this country. He will ignore the fact that in the last year since I left, it has been bloodshed, that the 55% public support of the police has now dwindled, public confidence and trust is lost, not because of the officers, but because of lack of leadership. He's going to ignore the fact of who may come first. He will ignore what the Police Service Commission wants. He would ignore what 89% of the country wants. So my application is simply to expose the character of the individual. He is going to say, I don't care what the country wants. I do not care what is best for the country. I do not care who comes first on the merit list. I do not care what the Police Service Commission wants. It is about me. And that is the reason why I applied. So how could I say that? And the Guardian could interpret that to mean that if I am accepted, I will resign as the political leader of the NTA. I will draw pictures for the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian in future because you all seem do not understand English. At no time, I again want to state, so Chester Zambrano, Mr. Norman Sabga, please get your editors to be trained to understand English language. At no time did I ever state, in total contrast to the false, misleading, and mischievous information printed in the Guardian today, when Chester Zambrano stated that I said that I would resign as the political leader of the NTA if I am appointed and selected as the Commissioner of Police. I never said that because I know for a fact that option would never exist because one man who is full of hatred and bitterness would rather see this country drown in bloodshed than to do what is right for the country.
And Mr. Griffith, you call on your successor, acting as he may be, to...
He was my successor. He has never been successful.
To show the intelligence that he would have gathered to tap your phone and the phone of your wife. Wouldn't that be considered tipping off and thereby criminal act?
No, well, the point of the matter is that you cannot use the word intelligence as a justification to interfere into the privacy of a citizen. And that is the point, Jensen. If there are grounds, you have documentation, you have witnesses, you have evidence, that must be the justification to intercept the phone of an individual. You cannot use the word intelligence, because intelligence can show lack of intelligence by stating anytime you want to interfere or try to go into your political opponents and target them, you just have to use the word intelligence. That cannot be right. So if it is that our constitution is flawed because of how it was drafted by the then Attorney General Anand Ramlogan, and even myself as the security advisor in 2011, we saw what happened in 2009. The Patrick Manning administration, they tapped the phones of 53 persons, inclusive of Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, Keith Rowley, Anil Roberts, Anand Ramlogan, Gary Griffith, and many others. And it was not based on any justification. It was based on these persons are opponents to us as a government. When we drafted the Interception of Communication Act, we tried to make sure it was boxed in to prevent political influence. We did not take into consideration that the three persons who have the authorization to intercept are persons who are handpicked by the same politician. And I'm not in any way to cast anything against the present three persons, but it means something is seriously wrong. And that is my point. So when it is you look at the individuals, you can have a warrant. And when a warrant, you take it by a judge. To get the warrant, it's under Section 8, Larry. Yeah, under Section 8. The warrant now is a lot of documentation to show evidence, justification, data, witnesses, victims. So the judge now can sign it. That means that will now be recorded and used in court. There's another section, I think it's Section 6, that just gives any of these three individuals any authority by using the word intelligence to say intelligence has revealed. It is a year since I left as Commissioner of Police, and this interception started in May this year. So you're telling me after a year that you just decide to say, okay, let us use intelligence to see if we can intercept the phone of Gary Griffith. I think it is quite coincidental that the approval for this interception took place almost identical to the time when I launched a political party, when I became political. And is that coincidental? It is for Mr. Jacob to decide. Because the same Mr. Jacob told the public, and when asked by the media, he said Gary Griffith is not being investigated. You recall that? How could you tell the country I am not being investigated, yet you are intercepting my phones? And I am challenging him. You have information on me, let the country know. Because I know there's no witness, no evidence, because again, Jensen, I have the document here from the police where it is stated that at no time have I ever been any person of interest by the police service. So if I've never been of any interest by the police service, there's never been a report, there's never been a victim. On what grounds would you have to intercept my phone, unless of course it may be that you were pressured to do so? And it is for him to call, because you cannot use the word intelligence just to intercept the phones and take away the privacy and the confidentiality of any law-abiding citizen by using the word intelligence.
The thing is, Jensen, that Section 6 of the Interception of Communication Act does not set a proper standard as to when, for example, the Commissioner of Police can intercept communications on someone's phone without having to go to a judge for a warrant. And that is the problem we have. In order for the proper balance to be struck between the need for the state to investigate and detect crimes, as well as the protection of the citizen's right to privacy, a proper standard needs to be set in the legislation. And one would expect it would be a standard that would prohibit the commissioner from intercepting simply on intelligence, without there being any police report, without there being any investigation, etc., to back up or to support what you say is intelligence. And that is what we are challenging. If at the appropriate stage we get to court and Mr. Jacob believes he has justification and he doesn't want to show it to us, he could show it to the judge and let the judge determine whether the application for the intercept permission was justified.
In other words, I'm calling them out. Tell the public. You have clearance. Tell the public what you have on Gary Griffith to justify that you can invade my privacy. Because I could tell you, as again I'm telling the country, today it is me, tomorrow it could be you. We cannot continue with this democratic dictatorship.
I just want to say for the record, I will no longer be messaging you because I'm But Mr. Lai, just to be clear, is it that you're calling for the amendment to the legislation?
Both. And that is why in our pre-action protocol letter, which we are supplying the media with a copy, you'll see the Attorney General is copied on it as well, because we are giving notice in the letter that we are challenging the legislation and the constitutionality of the legislation.
Mr. Griffith Jr., 37 months as Commissioner of Police, at any time did you have cause to tap someone's phone based on intelligence?
No, definitely. Again, there must be you must have probable cause. You can't just say it because I don't like Jensen and just use the word intelligence. As a commissioner of police, the power that is given to an individual, when you give an ignorant person power, they can abuse it. And you have to be very careful how you use that authority, because you can't affect the constitutional rights of others because of your personal view about anyone else. It must be some degree of documentation, witnesses, something to make it viable to justify invading the privacy and the confidential rights of any citizen in this country. Because the only way you must do that, if you go back to this section, it is based on trying to prevent a crime or to detect a crime. To intercept the phone of someone, it must be one of the two. Again, I'm challenging Mr. Jacob. The reason I could do this because I'm confident. I knew I did not commit any crime. So show us why are you intercepting my phone to prevent a crime or to detect a crime?
Now, in the beginning, you mentioned the audit, and not much came out of it. As far as I can recall, 2 officers who have been charged, members of the Firearms unit, charged for misbehavior in public office. So then how do you reconcile the two, saying that nothing came out of it? Right,
easy, because nothing in the Barrington or Stanley John report had anything to do remotely close to those 2 persons being charged. Those 2 persons being charged was based on claims that they were approving variations without my authorization. That was never put in the Stanley John or Barrington report. So millions of taxpayers' dollars were wasted on these 2 individuals submitting reports littered with "it is alleged," "it is rumored," and "we have heard," which is the PNM mantra. If you say the same lie over and over, people will believe it, aka Emailgate. And my point being is that we have over 200 police officers usually charged or disciplined for different matters every year. I arrested more police officers under my watch dealing with firearm corruption than since I left. So, and I didn't have to spend millions of taxpayers' dollars with audits and investigations. It was based on simple policing. 6 persons have been, if you listen to Mr. Jacob, he boasted that 6 persons have been arrested in the police service for corruption as it pertains to firearms in the last year. 4 of them were actually whilst I was still Commissioner of Police. 2 have been whilst I left. And the 2 persons there was nothing in the Stanley John or the Barrington report that has anything related to these 2 individuals, which is why I stated that these 2 reports were just as baseless and worthless as the paper that was printed on. And the audit was nothing different. You do an audit without speaking to the head of the person who was in charge of the organization. It shows that these 6 persons, as I said, they're either incompetent or they were already working to a planned agenda, and in the exuberance to try to go out with the bus throat, they forgot to do the most basic thing, which is to speak to the person who was in charge of the organization at that time.
Final 2 questions from me. When did you find out that your phone and the phone of your wife was tapped?
I'm not going to reveal the information, but I have it and it was factual. Within the last month or so.
How did you come about this information?
You know, I was hoping somebody will ask that. Why, when Rhea Tate got the leak from Stanley John, you all didn't ask Rhea Tate that?
She told her press conference.
Oh no, but she put it on front page of the Express, tomato. So it's amazing that the media all of a sudden the media could have access to information, but you want to find my access to the information. Why didn't you ask something important again? When it is that the Stanley John report was leaked and the Barrington report was leaked, that report was only in the hands of the National Security Council. So it means that somebody in the National Security Council leaked it to the media. That is known as tipping off. In that tipping off under the Proceeds of Crime Act, it meant that somebody in that National Security Council broke the law. And again, Mr. Jacob has refused to investigate that matter, because if that Barrington report was leaked to the media, which you all never asked, well, how come that matter got leaked to the media? But again, Minister Sleepy Fitzgerald-Hines was concerned that the Special Branch report was leaked to the media, but he was never concerned that the Barrington and the Stanley John report was leaked to the de facto Minister of Communication for the PNM Ria Tate. And when they get the report, it was okay. But and at no time was there any investigation to ascertain how a confidential report like that would have been leaked to the public. Because, as I said, if the Barrington report had anything of relevance, well then, and it was leaked to the media under tipping off, a crime was committed. Let me also add that I also wrote to the Acting Commissioner of Police. If Mr. Barrington has written anything stating of a criminal activity that would have taken place, and Stanley John, both individuals, statements should have been made, given to the police service, and have it investigated by them reporting a crime taking place. If they are so bold that they could write all of these crimes, Stanley John said someone broke the law. He's supposed to write to the police and state that. And anyone who would have broken the law should be dealt with. If, however, when the police investigate and they realize that Stanley John and Barrington they've misled the police, they should be charged for wasting police time.
So you're not concerned that you would have been part of this whole tipping off by somebody alerting you to the fact that your cell phone was being tapped?
You know, it's amazing. I mean, so I understand what you're trying to get at here, but this is mind-boggling.
It can't be
so,
tipping off for someone to inform you your rights are being...
yeah, my rights are being infringed. You're really serious? My rights are being infringed because, so this is not tipping off. This is my rights are being infringed because many people realize that a word has been used without any justification, any probable cause, any due process, and my rights are being affected. And you are concerned about how I got the information. But again, you know, a man will get a document, say it was in his mailbox, and you'll see, I mean, my 7-year-old nephew would have seen that the letters written was a typed document and not an email. And that man is still a prime minister. You know why? Because you will read lies in Parliament, which is the one place that you could cover yourself and not pay the price.
Have you gotten any feedback from the PSC on the ongoing process to any police commission?
Yes, I have, but again, as I said, this is a correspondence between the Police Service Commissioner and myself pertaining to matters like that would be confidential. I've seen other persons actually speak about what they have received. I will not do so. What I can state is that in 2018, I applied for the post as Commissioner of Police. I defeated every single person who applied for the post. I got 74%. The second person, Stephen Williams, got 69%. 3 years later, after being an individual that was able to do as best as I can to transform the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, I reapplied. I got 94%. The closest senior police officer got 77%. I mean, so I can easily do these exams with my eyes closed and I will still top it. Yes, I'm that cocky if you want to say that. So if at any time anyone decides to not put me first, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can see what took place. And then if and when my name goes to Parliament, we will see a man full of hate, a man full of bitterness, a man who is totally out of control when he cannot have his way.
During your time as the Commissioner of Police, have you ever intercepted communications of gang leaders? And can you explain what kind of process you follow to do so?
No, I obviously wouldn't answer that. If it pertains to interception, that could assist, which is the justification for a Commissioner of Police to intercept. As it pertains to preventing or detecting a crime, obviously I wouldn't make a comment. What I can state is that unfortunately this Commissioner of Police does not understand what is known as predictive policing. Predictive policing, and a simple example, when we had the incident a few weeks ago, the unfortunate incident with the 2 security guards being killed, and by the 4 other individuals, there were reports in the media that these 4 individuals boasted about it in social media. When I brothered with the NYPD, we formed what was known as the social media unit. We had the type of technology to monitor crime, anticipate crime, see what is taking place, hear individuals boast about a crime they're about to commit, the crime that took part in, And through that, we will do predictive policing, the preemptive strike. So we stopped dozens of murders from taking place. So my last year when it was 340 odd, it wasn't because of COVID, it was because of proactive policing, which is not being done now. That type of response, when it is you use that type of interception, it is to prevent a crime from taking place or to actually solve a crime after it has taken place. And we achieve a lot of that using many different arms of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, inclusive of the Special Operation Response Team that was instrumental to reduce crime dramatically. And Mr. Jacob saw it fit to shut them down. Okay? Okay, so thank you, members of the media. I will give you the documentation to again show as we close emphatically that a crime did take place and somebody must go to jail. Thank you.